And now, a show with inappropriate language. The Powell Movement.
Welcome to the Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and this week's guest made a big name for himself in the ski and snowboard world last week. I'm talking about Trevor Kennison, and while you may be like, who the hell is Trevor Kennison, you probably already know who he is. He's the sit skier that won Rider's Choice at the Kings and Queens of Corbet's in Jackson Hole last week. Trevor had an accident in 2014 that left him in a wheelchair, and the road that he's been on the past 5 years has not been easy, but Trevor is a positive dude. He's kind of like a super positive version of the burnout and Dazed and Confused, but a little bit smarter than that, and his infectious personality is inspiring. I was going to have Josh Dewick on the podcast. He's another sit skier who has balls of steel and does some crazy shit. That's going to happen at some point. I know Josh and I have talked, and if he's listening to this one, Josh, you are still in the rotation for a podcast. But what Trevor did at Corbet's last week was absolutely batshit crazy, and I had to get him on sooner than later. So in just a moment, we'll speak with Trevor Kennison. Before we get into the podcast, I want to ask you to follow me on Instagram at The Powell Movement. Shoot me an email with any questions or concerns. My email is mike@thepowellmovement.com, and tell your friends about the show. I also want to thank my amazing sponsors who make this show happen. They are Evo, Rescue Water, Spy Optic, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Please check out the ads in the podcast and save some money with the special offers that you'll get for listening. Now, let's talk to Trevor Kennison.
What's up, Mike?
Not too much, man. How you doing?
Great. How you doing, man?
Oh, pretty good. It was a pretty crazy week for you, huh?
Oh, my God. Crazy week.
Yeah, for people that didn't happen to see the Kings and Queens of Corbet's, which is an insane contest. Props to Free Skier, Teton Gravity, whoever put that thing on. What a great idea and what an amazing event. But Trevor Kennison, who I'm talking to right now, this is your first big event, I feel like, in your monoski or sit ski. What do you call it? Monoski or sit ski?
I mean, you could call it either way, but I think sit ski, because like when you type in monoski or you like say monoski, monoski basically is, you could be a monoskier, say like water skier, like in that sense. And I like sit ski.
I have a funny story relating to monoskiing that I should tell you about. And it involves some ski legends and my dumbass. So years back, the K2 team was pretty stacked. And the older guys weren't about being in contests, but they were the real heroes of the K2 brand. I'm talking about Seth Morrison and Shane McConkey.
No way. That's really cool.
Yeah, they were on K2 back then. And there are a lot of people who love to ski, but those two, I mean, they lived and breathed it. I feel like Seth almost more than anyone I've ever worked with. But back then, ESPN was putting on the first ever monoskiing contest in the X Games. And I was stoked because I read that they were putting monoskiing in, and I immediately crafted an email to Seth and Shane. Guys, I know contests aren't your thing, but I know both of you guys have spent time monoskiing, and monoskiing is now in the X Games. Should I make some calls and try to get both of you in there? And about 15 minutes later, I was doing some more research on it. When I read monoski, I didn't know what they were talking about.
For sure.
Then I had to email Seth and Shane back apologizing. I tried to get two of the best able-bodied skiers on the planet at that point in a sit ski race, which they probably weren't too stoked to read the email, but that was just because I'm stupid.
That's amazing. Honestly, when I get on the lifts and I see mono skiers, I was like, yo, we're mono skiing together. And they always laugh. But yeah, that's pretty much why I call it sit skiing, because it's like, mono skiing, you can be standing. It is one mono, you're on one, but sit skiing is so much more easier to recognize you're sitting.
Based off this past week at Corbet's, you put sit skiing on the map. Was this the biggest event you've ever been a part of in a sit ski or anything else for that matter in your life?
Yes, by far, 100%.
So you go to this event and it's the Travis Rices, Hannah Beeman, Carl Fosfet. I mean, a royalty within skiing and snowboarding. And how did you get invited to this thing?
Wait, that's his name? I thought it was Crazy Carl.
Crazy Carl, I mean, I think there's a bunch of different things that work for him.
Yeah, right. Every time I try saying his last name, I'm like, no, Crazy Carl. But no, basically, I've been trying to do this, not this contest, but since I saw it last year, I was like, I want to be a part of that. I want that. And ever since then, I literally just have been pushing for it and talked to the right people. Greg Heidel ended up going out with Damien Quigley from Free Skier, and they had dinner and basically sent an email saying, Trevor wants to do this. And Damien was like, all right. Sent an email to Jess McMillan, and I don't know what went on between those two, but I got an email from Jess on Thursday. I forget what the date was, but Thursday, right before that weekend. And she said, yeah, you can come up and you can drop Corbets if you're up for it. And I responded, I was like, I am so up for it, but safety, of course, if their conditions are right. But I was blown away. I had to keep reading it, like read the email like 3 or 4 times to actually like believe it was like real,
On your sit ski, the shit that you do, I skied with you last year. We'll talk about that later. But terrain parks, cliffs, I mean, that's kind of your game. So this contest is ideal for you. But had you done anything like that before, or just been hitting cliffs on a powder day?
Just been hitting, cliffs on a powder day. And I went to Japan and hit some cliffs out there. And, it was amazing. Just the more I do it, the more practice I get, the more people I see do it, I can learn from them. Going up to Corbet's was definitely the biggest drop I've ever done, and especially not in the powder.
I think everybody was probably blown away that there was a sit skier who was even going to attempt that, because to the mortal man, it is a serious commitment right there. And to you, who's in a chair, most people would be so scared to even think about doing what you were going to do, but you just pinned it and sent that thing. And when you got to the bottom, what was the reaction of the crowd to you? Because I don't think I saw that part, but what was that like coming into the corral?
So actually, like hitting the Corbets, and once I bounced and landed, I wrote it out. My goggles got ripped down because I couldn't see from just all the snow. Because like there was a lot of snow, like halfway down, like a lot of snow. So honestly, my goggles got ripped off. I make one turn and I'm like, I don't know where I am. I'm like, I don't know if I'm upside down. I don't know if I'm riding it out. I had to stop, and I ended up falling right over. And first thing I did, I looked up, and then put my outrigger up to the athletes and everyone up there. They were just cheering so loud, and then I could just hear it from the bottom too. Like that whole couloir was literally just roaring. It was pretty sweet feeling. And then when I went to the bottom and crowned those jumps, and I got to the bottom, Buddha gave me a Jackson Hole Air Force patch when I got to the bottom. And, I didn't know what it was, but Jess is like, yeah, it's probably one of the highest honors here. And I, just watched the movie, and, it's pretty amazing what those guys did. But yeah, it was amazing just getting down. Like I couldn't stop smiling, man. And my adrenaline was pumping. I'm still on cloud 9.
I can imagine. And was that the first time you were at Jackson Hole?
Second time.
Well, I don't think many second timers walk away for, God, I don't think many second timers leave there with that patch. So pretty impressive. And then was the whole week a party from there? Because I know you. You're a pretty laid back dude. You're always happy-go-lucky. And I mean, I don't know you well, but know you enough to know that you're a pretty chill dude. Maybe a lot of times with red eyes. What was the rest of the week like? Because it seemed like you had to stay for a few days to figure out who was going to win this thing at the party at the end of the week. So you had, 4 days to shred with people? And I'm sure every single person wanted to high-five you for what you did.
So, I mean, from going into there, my initial thought is I'm staying here from Sunday to Sunday. That's what I'm doing. I know it's a weather window, so the contest could be Monday, it could be Friday, but either way, I was going to ski powder, and that would have been fun. So the next day after Corbet's, I just chilled for probably, skied for a little bit, just chilled, I was just blown away with everything. And then Thursday, kept skiing. Friday, skied again. And I met really, really special people when I was in Jackson, and just that whole community, having people recognize you. They're like, oh, look, I got one too, the Jackson Air Force patch, and I'm just like, oh, wow, these are big time skiers, but like older skiers. It's just really cool to just see the whole history of the whole mountain. And the real cool part is, everyone is like, oh, were you that sit skier? And I'm like, yeah, that was me. And, everyone's just high-fiving. But the coolest part was, the little kids recognizing you and them coming up. For instance, this ski instructor, he was like, hey, someone wants to meet you, and these 2 little kids behind him. I was like, yeah, what's up? Like, come over. I'm Trevor Kennison. Like, what's your names? And like, they told me their names, and I was like, yeah, want to take a picture? Like, what's your Instagram? Like, I'll follow you, and just having that like 1 minute, or just, they'll always remember that. And it's just cool having them come up to me. Like, that makes me smile even more than like dropping anything I dropped, so.
It's got to be a pretty amazing feeling, and you got to be able to drop that stuff for people to come up to you as well.
Right.
There's probably 2 huge weeks in your life. One was a great week and one wasn't such a great week. And I would say this is the best week of your life. And we're going to talk about some other stuff that I'll assume is the worst week of your life. Who knows? But life for you starts in Keene, New Hampshire. Is that right?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Keene, New Hampshire, and there until, 18 years old.
And your mom, she's Colombian, and your dad's a masshole, and they're both super athletes.
Yep. You got the word on the block. That's correct.
Your dad's a marathon runner, and your mom was like a semi-pro soccer player. And to me, running as a sport is pretty boring. I only like to run when I'm doing other things. And to make this even more awkward, I never really talk about running with the person who's in a wheelchair, but I'm going to now. When you were younger, was running something that you were into at one point in your life where your dad's super into it and he kind of pushes you into his passion?
No, that's why I broke my back, so I didn't have to run again, I was never a big runner. I played soccer growing up as kids, me and my sister, baseball, basketball, swimming, just stuff like that. So I never really ran. I dated a girl in high school that ran.
That'll make you run.
Yeah, that will make you run. I tried running 5 miles with her. I was like, yeah, I'll just get on the bike or I'll follow you in the car. I was never much of a runner.
Swimming sounds like it was your serious sport. I think you got hurt at some point where you couldn't swim for a while, but state championship type level, I think.
From a young age, I grew up snowboarding as well and doing, border cross and stuff like that. But swimming from probably age 7 till I started getting good around 8, 9. And then right until like 13, 14, 8th grade year, I ended up stopping because I tore my shoulder. And like when I was 11, 12, 13, that age, I was one of the best in New Hampshire, second in New England for butterfly, I think top 50 in the country. I really, really loved it. That was my main thing. And so my dad never pushed me to race, but he pushed me to swim extreme. Not extreme, but he definitely pushed me to swim. It was really good for me. I was busy. We did dry land an hour before practice. And like, it was the best thing for me. I even say to this day, I love swimming. I loved it. But I just swam a little too much and I had loose shoulders. I was a butterflyer. Ended up, getting a slight left rotator cuff tear. Honestly, I could have probably rehabbed it, but I was just so disappointed at that point and, kind of burnt out. I did it for so long and just growing up as a kid, that's all I knew.
Did you wear a Speedo?
Oh, yeah. That was my jam.
Was it your jam where when you weren't racing, you were just walking around in the Speedo, or did you have something to cover up afterwards?
No, I would cover up.
It's kind of like the ski racers do that too, where they have something to wear after their run.
Yeah, exactly. My thing was sweatpants, like all through high school. I finally bought like my first pair of jeans, like, I don't know when, like maybe halfway through high school.
You must have been a hit with the ladies.
Oh, yeah, they loved it. That and wool socks.
With sandals?
Yeah, with sandals, yeah.
All right. Well, snowboarding was a big part of your life too. And how do you get into snowboarding? What's your mountain? Give me your snowboard background.
Growing up as a kid, my dad had a sports shop. We talked earlier about him being a triathlete, doing some Ironmans, a marathon runner. My mom was a semi-pro soccer player. So he had a sports shop and he carried soccer cleats, running shoes, running apparel, all this apparel for soccer stuff. And it was just like a general sports store. But then he started carrying skateboards. And then in the late, mid 80s, I'm pretty sure, right when snowboarding came out with all their snowboards, he started carrying them in his shop. And from, I don't even know how young I was. All I knew is I never skied a day in my life. I only snowboarded. So probably on age 2, me and my sister, she's a year older than me and she got on skis. She could ski and snowboard, way more impressive than me. So I only snowboarded, but we did it from age 2. And that's basically how I started to snowboard.
Gotcha. And what's the local mountain for you guys?
The local mountain was Okemo, because it was like, hour drive or whatever. But Okemo and Stratton and Mount Snow.
Okay. And are you into the snowboard scene? Is that kind of how you define yourself in high school?
It was interesting because elementary school, I kind of like slowed away from snowboarding. I'd go here and there, but I became such a swim racer until high school. And then all through high school, like I played soccer and played pickup basketball, and I never really went snowboarding that much, maybe like a couple of times because it was expensive. I couldn't get to the hill. So I didn't really start snowboarding again until I moved out to Colorado.
Did your family take a trip when you were younger to Colorado? Because I feel like you might have
Yep,
went out there once and it changed your worldview on snowboarding, at least.
totally. My stepdad actually took me out to, this is a funny story. I was 12 years old. We were done long course age groups, end of July. My mom comes up to me. She's like, all right, you ready? I was like, yeah, where are we going? She's like, we're going on a little trip. I was like, okay. Had what I had on my back and, just went with her and my stepdad and my stepsister and went to Rhode Island and left from there. We trucked a trailer with 2 Harley Davidsons in the back. One was with a Harley Davidson with a sidecar. One was with just a Harley Davidson full dresser. We went to Niagara Falls. Amazing. This thing is enormous. Massive water. Like, are you kidding me? Then we went to Colorado, pulled up the motorcycles, I think in Fort Collins area. I believe we started up there. And my mom drove for a month and a half, 4,000 miles all around the West. But we started in Colorado, went to Pikes Peak, all through Colorado, down through Moab, Lake Powell, the Four Corners, down south through Grand Canyon, head west to, Arizona, Nevada. We stopped in Las Vegas. We were camping. The first night we pulled over, he's like, all right, this is where we're camping. And it was literally in the middle of nowhere because we took all back roads. We ended up going along the coast of California, up Route 1, through Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, down through Yellowstone, Wyoming, and got back to the cars. And literally it's the most amazing trip of my life, seeing the mountains for the first time. I was just like, are those clouds? What is that? And you get closer and closer and you just can't believe it. Like the Colorado Front Range, and it blows your mind. And ever since that moment, I literally had fallen in love with Colorado, and I, always have wanted to move back, and I did it one day.
Before you moved to Colorado, you graduated high school, and I believe that there is a college right around you. Is Keene State right near you?
Yep, Keene State's right next to me. That's right in the town.
And that's a huge school for the ski and snowboard crowd, it seems like, because they can be right near the mountains and enjoy that lifestyle. At least that's what I've never been there. It's what I believe. But was there any thought of going to Keene State or college after high school?
Not really. Honestly, I didn't do that well in high school at all.
Did you party at all, or was it just you didn't do well?
I definitely partied a lot when I was younger. I partied way too much. High school was basically my college, and I didn't get into college. I didn't have good grades and managed to play soccer ever since I was, a freshman in high school. Made JV sophomore year, made varsity, ended up making all-state my senior year. But I just ended up partying, and, I love people, and I just always wanted to be around people. So, yeah, I didn't do great, so I didn't make it to Keene State College.
So you graduate, and it sounds like the career path to me, and this is a strange one for me because it sounds like you wanted to become a plumber. And for me, when I think about it, when you graduate high school, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want, and finding a path is really important to creating adulthood. But I know that plumbers and plumbing are very important to society, and it's a lucrative profession. But when you look at career paths when you're 18, some would say plumbing is a shitty path. They would be correct, but I'm guessing maybe you knew something about brown gold.
What I learned from plumbing is payday's on Friday and shit rolls downhill.
Okay.
No, after high school, I didn't know what to do, and I ended up moving in with my mom because she ended up going to Rhode Island. They got divorced when I was 7. She moved to Rhode Island, married, had a kid. I have a little sister, Sophia, and she's awesome. My older sister, Ashley's awesome. But I ended up moving with her, and I ended up doing a summer camp. I had a bike 13 miles on a road bike because I didn't have a car, and I lived in the middle of the woods. And so we basically I had a bike to summer camp for a 5-hour shift, and then bike back or get picked up. And, I did that for the first summer for 6 to 8 weeks in Rhode Island. And after that, in the fall, my stepdad, he was a Harley mechanic, and one of his buddies offered me an apprenticeship at the plumbing job, and that's how I took it. And I started, and I absolutely loved it.
What is the gnarliest thing that you ever ran into as a plumber?
Well, so to test the system, you only need 10 feet of head pressure. So I was literally 50 to 70 feet down below where the pipe is. My boss at the time, I'm 2 years in or whatever, a year and a half in, He literally gives me a hacksaw, not even like a sawzall, automatic sawzall. And I'm in this trench, that we're an excavator dugout, and I'm 10 feet down too. And I'm literally cutting it. And I'm like cutting it. And then literally I start cutting it. And then all of a sudden it just starts sprouting and like 10 feet in the air. I'm trying to cut it as quick as I can to like just break the pipe so it all drains out. And I have like just literally shit, piss, toilet paper, whatever you want to call, all over me. I had to do it. I had to get the job done. That was it. But that was the most nastiest shit ever. I mean, there's more shit to like talk about, but that was gross.
Have you ever gotten sick from your work?
I didn't. I've honestly like climbed in the septic tank and I thought I almost couldn't like get my arms out of it to come back out. I thought I was trapped in there. I was like, holy shit, this is scary.
I'm going to take a break real quick to talk about my sponsors. And my first sponsor is Evo, and they've supported the podcast since day one. If you're a fan of the show, I hope you buy your skis, snowboard, bikes, outerwear, everything from Evo. They're the best retail experience in Denver, Seattle, Portland, and Whistler, and their website, evo.com, features the best prices, an amazing user experience, a no-hassle return policy, and free shipping on orders over $50. If you're in store, let them know you listen to the Powell Movement, and you'll get an additional 10% off. My next sponsor is Rescue Water. They are Proactive Recovery and another longtime supporter of the show who makes a product I believe in. Drink one Rescue Water after working out or a big night, and you will feel the difference in hydration. It's time to say goodbye to your traditional sports drink and try Rescue Water. You can pick some up at the store, on Amazon, or head on over to rescuewater.com. That's RESQ water.com. Enter the code RescueWaterTPM, that's all one word, and you will save 20% off a 12-pack or 24-pack case. Those are my sponsors. Are you riding a lot on the East Coast once you start plumbing?
So, yeah, I ended up staying in Rhode Island for 2 years, and I was just like, what am I doing with my life? I'm still getting paid $12.50. There's something more. So I ended up looking on Craigslist, found a plumbing job, because I was like, all right, 2 years experience, whatever. Started looking, and I was like, oh, sick, dude. Like 18 an hour, 2 years experience. Like, hell yeah. So I did plumbing 2 years in Rhode Island. And then I called this guy named John Plymell. And I'm like, hey, buddy, how's it going? I'm blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the conversation, he's like, yeah, you have a job. I was like, sick. He's like, all right, you want to start working tomorrow? And I was like, dude, I'm in New Hampshire. He's like, oh, I'm fucking with you. And like right then and there, I was like, this dude is cool. Packed up my shit and drove out there 3 days later.
No way.
Yeah. So I started getting $18 an hour out there. I left on a Thursday, ended up getting to Colorado on Saturday. Slept in my car. I looked at places. I had like a shitty little phone. I went to like Starbucks to get like sit outside and like use their free Wi-Fi to look at Craigslist. I looked at a couple places, slept in an apartment complex, got a boot on my car that night. And some dude was like, oh, pay me $100. I went there with like $1,500. I paid him $100. He felt all bad and he still kept my money, but he was like, call this number if you want to stay here in your car tonight. And I was like, dude, give me my $100 back. Like, come on. That was like 4:00 in the morning, Sunday morning. And I ended up like going to Starbucks again. It was freezing. I'm sitting there shivering, just trying to like get warm and looking at whatever. I ended up going to a hotel. My mom got me a hotel, chilled there. My buddy came over. We chilled, watched football. Amazing time. Literally passed out probably like 6:00 in the afternoon that night. Woke up Monday morning, went straight to work, met my boss, worked that day, went to go check out 2 places during lunch to go for a place to live, went back to work. At the end of work, I was like, yeah, I'm moving this place, and I moved all my shit in there.
Wow, that worked out pretty well.
Right? And that's how I ended up in Colorado.
And is that when you're living in Eagle?
Eagle, Colorado, yep.
That first year, I mean, you're able to get a lot of days on snow, but you're working full-time as well.
Yeah, every weekend. And then anytime, say like it was 2:00 and I had my board in my car every time. I would know if it's like a little slow, and if we were wrapping up, I would, hint it to him like, yo, so what's the deal? I was like, can I get like a couple laps, So, I'd get some laps, and first year I got in like 60 something days working full time.
And at this point, you're getting ready for season 2 in Colorado. You've got to be fired up beyond belief based on 2 years ago, you're at your mom's house. You're a plumber making $12.50 an hour and have no real direction in life. And then you head to the mountains and make everything happen in 3 days. So you have year one and you realize, hey, I've got this life. And then year two comes around and it's going to get even better. And you're going to go hike Vail Pass and get some early season turns. And everything goes wrong. And I know you've retold the story a bunch and it's probably not fun to retell. But what happens on that day?
That day, I literally woke up that morning so stoked to buy my Epic Pass. Bought my Epic Pass that morning. I'm laying in bed with my girlfriend and I was like, hey, can you bring me to the mountain? And the night before, I ended up strapping my backcountry board, one directional board, from regular to goofy. And I always ride regular. On my park board, I could like hit, 40, 50-foot jumps, something like that, like the Beaver Creek jumps, regular and goofy. So that being said, the backcountry board, that's all I had because I broke my park board. And I literally told myself, I'm only going to ride Brett, Keystone, early mountains like that and not have anything to do with jumps, anything like that. So I'm all stoked. My girlfriend's dropping me off in Eaglevale. And I get with my buddies and I was like, yo, let's set up like a rail. And I was like, nah, fuck that. Let's go up to Vail Pass. Like, let's go hit it. Like it's nuking out. And so like we were trying to build like a little jump and, it was 3:00 and these kids come down and it was, getting later, around 3:30-ish. And they're like, oh, there's a jump up there. And I was like, oh, let's go hit it. Like I said, I had no business hitting jumps. I was trying not to.
Why is your board mounted goofy if it's your directional board and you ride regular?
Because I wanted to learn. I wanted to get better and like ride for a month straight. And then when I go back to a park board, I'm just that much better.
I get it.
I just wanted to learn, and just get better and better. So I go up there. There's 10-foot kicker. These two of my buddies go first. I end up going last. I catch an edge right off the jump, flying through the air like a Superman. I tuck my head. I didn't want to land on my head. I tuck my head, land straight on my back. I heard a loud pop. My board and boots compressed me like a taco. And then I folded out my head up the mountain, feet down the mountain, laying like a starfish. And, I heard a loud pop and just trying to be optimistic. I was like, oh shit, man. Like, is my left hip, like it was on fire because I damaged the left side less. So I was like, oh shit, did I break my hip? And I'm looking at my feet and I couldn't even move. I obviously couldn't move, but I'm looking at my feet. I'm like, oh man, no. And, I knew right away and I was just trying to hope for the best. But my buddies are like, yo, hurry up, man. Like, we're right there. And I was like, dude, I can't move. He's like, no, come on, man. I was like, dude, I can't fucking move. I really can't move at all. And one stayed with me. One went to the parking lot. And I was only off of exit 190 off of Vail Pass. I wasn't too far out. But anyways, I waited in the snow from 4 to 7:30 at night in a blizzard until search and rescue got to me.
And what's your pain level like?
So at first, my pain level was just like, I just couldn't believe it,
You're in shock at first?
I was in shock, and then, it kind of wore off. And if they got there, probably within like half an hour, fine, great. Hour went by, and I was like, no way. I could just hear snowmobiles, on the cat track right above me. I was like, oh, nice, they're here. Oh, no, they're here. Nope. So anyways, I was laying there, and like the last hour and a half, dude, they were trying to like build me like neck pillows, and I was just like not going in and out, but that last hour and a half, I was like fading pretty hard. I was pretty cold. They were trying to wipe snow off of me like the whole time, and I didn't think I was going to make it out there alive, dude. And every time, like when I lay down, it's not a bad feeling, but every time I lay down in the snow and I look up and, I see it snowing, just slowly snowing on my face, it reminds me of that night. And like I said, I didn't think I was going to make it out, and I was shivering. I was so cold. And yeah, search and rescue finally got to me.
How'd they get you out? I would think that the ride out has got to be just as miserable as laying down, looking up at the sky being cold.
When search and rescue got to me, they shot me up with morphine, and it didn't do much, and it did something obviously, but I was just so cold at that point. And they basically tried to turn me to the right side, left side, to basically, I don't know how they did it, but say like a sheet underneath me or something to lift me into like a sled or toboggan. And when they did that, that was the most excruciating pain I've ever felt, because I shattered T11, T12, or burst fractured them. I dislocated my back in and punctured my spinal cord. And dude, having the dislocated back, them lifting me up like that, it was the most excruciating pain I've ever felt in my life. So they did that, and then they had to pull me up to the sled. They had like 8 guys or whatever by hand pull me up to the cat track, and then they transferred me into the sled and then down, and then they transferred me into the gurney down in the ambulance. And like those 3 times were so fucking painful. I've gone 3 shoulder surgeries before my back surgery, and that pain tops everything, dude.
What's a dislocated spine anyway? Where does it dislocate?
So basically, it's like where T11 and T12 were.
Where are they?
They're like right where your belly button is.
Okay.
And basically, my spine was looking 90 degrees into my back.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
So if I hear that pop and I can't feel anything, I don't think I would be able to be as positive. I guess you have a choice, right? You're either negative and go into a dark place, or you're positive. And it always helps, I would think, when you're positive from the minute you get in that ambulance. And is that how you took it? Or what's going through your head?
Right when it happened, going through my head was my girlfriend getting back on pain pills because, after 3 shoulder surgery, I got pretty hooked on them. So getting back on those, I just moved into my apartment, paid my first, last, and security deposit literally a month before. My work, I was making like $23 an hour at that time, had my own work truck. I lived 2 houses from my boss. It was me and him, and some other employees, but I would have loved to take over his business and all this stuff, right? So that's what I was really thinking, like, having to tell my parents, my sister. Anyways, getting in the ambulance, I didn't know what I was really thinking, but I was just trying to get warm as shit. Like, they probably put 15 blankets on me, like warm blankets, and they cut my favorite shirt off ever.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's just one of those things that happens. You can't really worry about the shirt. But you get to the hospital, and is it emergency surgery? Like, let's get this guy in and get him stable right away?
I got out at 7:30, went to Frisco. They transfer me again. Every time they transfer me, it hurt so bad. They transfer me to like an x-ray machine or whatever. And, I look at my back and I was like, oh, shit. And, at this point, I'm starting to get more medicated. It hurts extreme, but like when I lay there, it's a lot better. And they were like, yeah, you need to go to Denver. And I was like, all right, let's do it.
So you get to Denver. Do you go to Craig? Is that the hospital you end up at?
I go to St. Anthony's Hospital. It's in Denver. And that's where I get my surgery. And I don't remember really getting there. I don't really remember really leaving Frisco. I just remember waking up in the morning, not waking up, but like my eyes opening, and the doctor's right above me. And he looks at me. He's like, are you ready? I was like, yep, let's do this, doc. And he puts the mask on me and literally done. And then I wake up and my sister's there and my girlfriend at the time is there. The first thing I say to the nurses, I'm like looking around. I was like, hey, did you guys put my tattoo together good? Because I have this big back tat for my great grandma. She was a big influence on my life. And that's like something funny. That's the first thing I said when I woke up.
You get through surgery. When did they start having you start doing work?
So I was in the ICU until Tuesday and then hung out in just normal care. And then Thursday, I ended up going to Craig Hospital and I got a room Thursday night, woke up in the morning. I think Fridays when they came into my room. And I remember like my PT, my doctor, I met the whole crew, the therapeutical rec guy. They wanted me to get in a wheelchair. And I was like, dude, give me the weekend. Please let me watch football. Let me just chill. Let me just relax. Let me settle in. Monday, I will crush it. Anything you guys want, I will do. So, I did that, hung out. And then Sunday, someone was like, hey, you might want to try to get in a wheelchair so your back doesn't stiffen up. So they had this harness, that picks me up out of bed, transfers me into a chair, and they're sitting me straight up. And honestly, just trying to get it to like the 90 degrees. I couldn't explain the pain, but like I was just so uncomfortable. And so I did that just to stretch out for probably an hour. And that Monday morning, they literally came in and they're like, all right, we're doing this. I was like, all right, let's do it. And from day one, I did whatever they wanted. And I was like their bitch. And I wanted to get out there as quick as possible.
How long until you leave Craig?
I was there for 6 weeks.
When you leave there, are you in a position to live your life?
No, yes. I mean, I was ready to live life, but I mean, I was in no position. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I had to move out of my place, the one that I just paid the first and last in security deposit because the doors were too small. I couldn't fit in to go to the bathroom. So I ended up living in a hotel for 5 days. I drove myself in my car from the hospital to the mountains. I lived in the hotel for 5 days. I found a place renting a room for like $800 in the middle of Walcott on top of a hill. So it took me to get to like Eagle to town like 30 minutes. To get to Edwards, same thing, 30 minutes. I was just up there. I wanted to live in the mountains, but yeah, that was the start, and then I started living in Walcott for the first probably, I did a 6-month lease, so I lived there until July.
One last thing about the injury when it happens. Do you get to see the final bill of what it costs to put you back together?
Oh, I did not see the final bill, but I think it was like a good $250,000 at least, something around that.
If you were in the hospital for 6 weeks, or you were in Craig for 6 weeks, you were
Yep.
in ICU for what, 5 days, 4 days?
4 days.
And then regular hospital for a little bit as well?
Yep, for 2 days, and then the surgery as well. So
I would think it's more than $250,000, but you know what? I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure the surgery was $250,000, but I mean everything on top, like the ambulance rides, everything. I mean, if I didn't have insurance, I'm very lucky in that sense.
The plumbing insurance wasn't shitty, although the job could be. When you're in Colorado and you're living in the mountains, are you still with that girlfriend and have that support system through her and her family?
Totally. I had that, and she was with me through the whole thing, so supportive through everything. But, some things happen. I went through depression. Her whole family supported me and her, and she was amazing, seriously amazing. And it's harder on other people around you versus yourself, when you get a traumatic injury like this. And, she did so well with it. And, I went through a depression, and I ended up moving home for 2 months because I didn't know what to do. I was like, what if she leaves me? I have no one, and ended up moving home and lived on a buddy's couch for 2 months. I love my friends, but like that was such a tough thing to do because there was 3 stairs just to get inside the house. And then the bathroom was a flight of stairs to go up the house. So like if I needed to go to the bathroom, I would go every other day, If I had to pee, I'd pee right in a bottle. But if they weren't home, I literally climb my ass up the stairs, and then I would transfer up to the toilet, go to the bathroom, scoot my ass over the tub, climb in the tub, take a shower, climb out, get changed on the ground, and then scoot my butt to the stairs, and then transfer all the way down, and then hop in my chair, and holy shit, I feel like $1,000,000.
Speaking of that and just hearing that story, when you have an injury like you do, it sounds like you have normal pee and poop and all that shit works normally.
No, so I have to use catheters, and I'm on a bowel program, so I have to use suppositories. I can't poop on my own. So all these things that people, even I was so oblivious before my injury, and you don't know it, unless if you know someone in a wheelchair or spinal cord injury or something like that. There's so much more to seeing someone in a wheelchair, and people don't really realize it. That's the hard struggle. Not being in a chair, that's not the struggle. It's what's beyond that, the stuff that goes way deeper.
Yeah, and how do people react to you? Because it's almost scary when a friend has a life-altering injury like that. And I would think you're not losing friends because of this, but people are probably shy to be around you or don't know how to react around you. Did you experience that as well?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Like right after my injury, some of the friends, like I just stopped talking, and like after my injury, probably got weirded out and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, I have my girlfriend, and that's it. Like, what do I do? So I went home to friends that like I grew up with, and they were amazing. Like even now, they support me in and out. They lifted my ass like to the beach. We went to Maryland. We went on the boat. We shot potato guns. Like just hung out with the friends, and I did some beer keg stands, stuff like that. And so like they literally got me out of my comfort zone and not looking behind me like every time, and like looking up and making sure like my girlfriend's right there to like be there. And don't get me wrong, I think that's the most amazing thing, but it was great for them to like get me out of my comfort zone because I mean I probably wouldn't be here today if I never did that.
They make you feel normal again?
Yeah, just like we're the boys, just I need a little bit more help, no big deal.
Now I'm going to take another break to talk about sponsors, and my next sponsor is Spy Optic. And I've worn a lot of goggles and sunglasses in my day. None have the fit and function of what Spy delivers. On the snow, I rock the Ace EC. It's a high-tech chromoplast lens that becomes 3 lenses at the push of a button. It is the best goggle ever made. Off the hill, I wear the Hate 2 sunglasses. And there's a ton of other frames that I like, but that is my favorite. There's a ton of choices for you, and while I can't offer you a discount on the Ace EC, which is arguably the best goggle ever built, I can offer you 20% off Spy's entire site. When you're at checkout at spyoptic.com, enter the code capital TPM, the number 20, all one word, and you'll get 20% off your entire order. My final sponsor is the 10 Barrel Brewery out of Bend, Oregon. They make beer and like to drink it outside, and the beer they make is awesome. And when they're not making or drinking their awesome beer outside, they're supporting some of the coolest projects and events in snow. The events start up on March 9th at Copper Mountain with the first of 3 Hella Big Air events. On March 23rd, there's the Goggle Tan Rail Jam at Ski Bowl. On March 30th, another Hella Big Air at Mount Bachelor. And the third and final Hella Big Air stop has been confirmed at Sierra at Tahoe on April 6th. So a lot of cool events. They also have Mike Bassich's Beer Cat, which is the first ever Snow Cat pub. So next time you're out buying beer, support the brand that supports you, the 10 Barrel Brewery. You can find out more about the events, their pubs, and the beer over at 10barrel.com. Those are my sponsors. Now let's get back into the podcast. What happened to you and this girl? Do you break up when you move back east, or what happens with her? Because having that support system's huge, and what happened to her?
I ended up leaving, and I just kind of like went into another little depression after like a month and a half. And I was like, what did I do? We kind of kept in touch, but I was so busy, not busy, but like with my friends all the time. And, I was having fun. So I was just like, all right, like, I guess we're going to just be friends. And so anyways, I was like, what did I do? Like, I can't believe I did this. And so I ended up moving back to Colorado after my sister got me on the slopes for the first time. I went back to Craig Hospital for a year checkup. So went up to did that. And my sister got me up to come to Snowmass, and she got me on the snow for the first time. And, I ended up seeing my ex-girlfriend or girlfriend, and we weren't really dating at the time, but saw her, and we ended up like kind of making it work. I ended up moving back out like 3 or 4 weeks later, and I moved to Glenwood Springs. She lives in Gypsum, Colorado. So it's like a 45-minute drive. And, in the month of January, I probably saw her, a handful of times. She was just really hurt that I left her.
Yeah.
After everything. And, I totally understand where she's coming from. And, I just didn't know what to do. And I was just so lost. And, I hurt her, obviously. And, I feel bad to this day. And so we tried making it work and talking, all this stuff. And I was like, found out I'm going on the ski trip in February. And I'm like, look, I got new goggles. I'm stoked. And she's just being all like, not supportive about it. I'm like, what's your problem? She's like, well, I just don't want you to get hurt and all this stuff. I was like, well, yeah, I get it. But like, I'm going to still do this. I'm still going to be in a chair. So like, why not? And yeah, we were just getting in arguments about me getting back on the hill.
I can see both sides of it. I mean, you need to live, and she sees that she was nurturing and taking care of you when you needed someone to take care of you. And I guess there's a fear that you could do even worse than you already did to yourself, which, based on what you do, a very valid concern on her end, but the way you live your life, you can't really think about that. So this trip that Craig invites you on, are they just like, hey, we want you to come down to Crested Butte and go ski with us because we know you're into skiing again?
No, so they had this alumni ski trip, and I was obviously alumni, and Craig Hospital contacted me. So I got invited, and I went, and there's 5, 6 of us alumni that went from all different ranges, right a year after your injury or 15 years after your injury. It was just alumni. And that was in the middle of February, and got invited, and I drove myself with my sister, got there, and was stoked, and there was day one.
Someone there had told you should reach out to the High Fives Foundation because those guys can help you and make a big difference in your life.
Yeah, that trip was amazing. Literally changed my life. At the end of the week, a couple people through Crescent Butte, they were like, oh, you need to like get in contact with these people. They have a camp, pretty sure, in a couple weeks. And, Craig Hospital's partnerships with the High Fives Foundation. And so they all talk. They all know each other. So, and I've heard of High Fives, I think, around a year after my injury. And I was just super nervous to like call them and talk to them and all this stuff. So after, the week-long trip, they're like, you need to call these people. So I call Steve Wallace, and I'm so nervous to talk to him. I don't know what to say. And I was like, hey, what's up, man? He's like, hey, what's up, buddy? He's like, hey, your names came up a couple of times. I was like, oh, all right, cool, cool, cool. And then he's like, just started talking. He's like, so, you want to come to this trip? We have one in New Hampshire, or I think it was Vermont, Minnesota, and Tahoe. And he basically was like, yeah, the whole thing's paid for. You just have to come. And it's really short notice. It's like 3 or 4 days. So I was like, oh, man. All right. I'll see you there, man. I packed up my stuff and I drove out. I thought Tahoe. So I was like, oh, I know where Tahoe is. It's the next state over. Like, go through Utah. We're there. And I totally forgot I had to go through Nevada. And yeah, literally, that's how I heard about him. And I drove out there and I started that journey and met those people there.
I actually heard that one of the first things with the high fives is that you filled out an application for a grant, but that you thought that just filling out the application for the grant made you part of the High Fives Foundation.
Yeah, probably.
All right. Well, then they invite you out and you get in your car, which I hear is a Toyota Camry piece of shit. Hand controls that you've rigged together that are just ridiculous, but it works, and you get out there. And that trip with the high fives, I mean, you're there for their camp, and after the camp, they decide to send you to nationals.
Yeah, they sent me to nationals, and I drove home right after the trip. I don't have a passport. I needed a passport to get classified, so I drove down to Denver, expedited a passport. I flew out of Aspen like 5 days later. I ended up going to Loon Nationals in New Hampshire. And it's cool because I grew up there. So I had, 4 or 5 buddies come up and visit me. And it's like my 10th day skiing ever. Anyways, I get to the top of the GS course, the inspection, and, I'm about to drop in for my race. And I go last, DFL, because I'm brand new and I have no clue what to do. Anyways, I'm going last. And, I'm looking at the top of the GS course. I'm like, are you serious? I'm shitting myself. I'm like, what am I doing? I have no business being here. I made it down, and it was just cool experience to be there.
That's got to be surreal and humbling, that trip. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
got to light a fire under your ass to want to work more with the high fives and make something happen of a ski career for you, because maybe before that trip, there was no future in skiing for you, really. And then you go on that trip, and I think there's a whole nother world that your eyes are open to, is like, hey, there are people that care about this, that support this, and that make a difference in a lot of people's lives. And is that when you start focusing on training and getting better on your sit ski? This is just like 2 years ago, too. I mean, we're not talking about a long time ago.
Yeah, literally 2 years ago in the spring, I was like, all right, I want to ski a lot. So I borrowed a ski rig. Great people down in Enabling Technologies in Denver. They let me borrow a ski rig for the whole rest of the spring. I got in like 20-ish days that spring. I met with High Fives again at their ski-a-thon. I was talking to her. I was like, what now? I don't know what to do with my life. And really, I don't know what to do. Like, if I don't ski, like, I think I'll go in depression again. So he's like, all right, you know what you need to do? You're going to go down to Dallas. You're going to go to Adaptive Training Foundation, and you're going to go meet this badass British dude, and you're going to go train for 8 weeks. I was like, okay, sick. When am I going? And this is middle of April, and I was going June, July. That's when I went, June and July. Drove down there with my 93 Camry. I had my hand cycle strapped to the top of my car backwards. So 2 wheels on the hood of the car strapped down, driving 15 hours, that's usually like 75, 80, I'm probably going 75, 80 in my Camry. And it's like, people are passing me on the left, like just looking, they're like, what the hell is this thing? I end up getting there, right? I get to the hotel, didn't know anyone. I go to a Red Sox game by myself. And then literally the first day I go in there, I open the door and there's like literally 5 jacked dudes. I'm literally blown away. I'm like, damn, they are jacked and ripped. I want to be like that, right? And this one little short white dude comes up to me and he's bald headed dude. He's like, hey man, I'm Rex Burkhead. I play for the Cincinnati Bengals. I was like, oh, cool. I love football. And he's like, oh yeah, that's Kenny Vicario. Oh yeah, that's Brandon Carr. A couple others. I was like, what? This is sick. And I was like, nice. Who's your trainer? He's like, oh, that dude, the other bald dude, Johnny. I was like, no way. I was like, that's my trainer too. He's like, yeah, that's your trainer. I was like, wow, this is going to be a good 8 weeks.
And when you go there, David Vibora, I think, runs that, and it's his brainchild. And it's a lot of injured military, and I don't know who else is going to it, but you are going there. And they pretty much kick your ass. I mean, it is like the boot camp of boot camps. And when people aren't able-bodied and go there, they feel like they are once they're in those walls, because it's all about hard work and it doesn't matter what you have to work with as long as you're willing to bust your ass.
Yeah, I absolutely love that place. David knows it. I love David. I love Johnny, Hunter, Mo, Colin, Kat, oh my God, I could keep going. All these people are such good people. And you get in there, and what David has done for that whole facility and all these athletes, injured vets, just anyone, you go in there and you work your ass off, and it's the coolest feeling. And then, able-bodied people that come in from outside, and they come in and they see like the workouts we're doing, and they work out, but like some people might just sit on their ass and not do anything. And you go in there and it's like, nah, dude, I'm gonna start working out now. It's like that's the tone and mentality he's set. You go in there like, who cares? You're disabled, dude. Like, we make fun of each other. Like we're all one. Family. We always talk about Roy. David. Everyone. We always talk about Ohana, and these foundations have literally saved my fucking life, man. Yeah, high fives changed my life, like meeting them, but them sending me down there changed my mental state, right? Getting me stronger mentally, but physically. And then, getting back on the snow that next fall, high fives helping me with, everything, equipment, skis, taking me on surfing trip, just being a family and being there for me. Just the whole combination of the two really has set me straight. And, I can't thank them enough.
That trip is probably like a $10,000 trip to go down there to the Adaptive
Yep.
Training Foundation. And then the next fall, like you say, you're going into a ski season stronger than you've ever been in your entire life. And I think the thing that's held you back with skiing is your sit ski. And I think you get a new chair last season that really changes the game for you.
I actually got it this season.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, so when I came back that first season, I was still in an older rig, and I was feeling great. Things were going great. I moved to Winter Park, and things were going phenomenal. And I was ski racing. I was doing great, progressing, hitting more jumps, getting more comfortable. Ended up hitting a tree. This rig's 15 years old. It's a great rig, but at the same time, the technology's not there. And anyways, I got a brand new rig this season. High fives paid for it. Ended up getting High Fives Athlete of the Year last year, and they ended up getting me a brand new sit ski. And getting that new ski really transformed my skiing, cliffs, jumps, rails, just ski racing, free skiing, just really, really being one with my rig.
And is that what gives you the confidence to huck bigger things now?
Most definitely.
Because I skied with you last year. We went to the Military of the Mountains event, and it was a super deep day. We were at Alpine, and there was like 20 of us out there, and you were sending everything you possibly could, and I didn't know who you were. I just thought you were another dude who had a bad injury, and you're going out there just to get out there and relive life. And then I see you dropping big cliffs and big rocks, and it's like, who the fuck is this guy? And he's crazy. I've never seen a sit ski ever even think about doing anything like that. And there's one thing that I want to talk about that you did on the sit ski. So you fell in a 30-foot hole.
Oh, man.
You ducked a rope and you fell in. What happened here? Because it's not easy to get out of something like that when you're on a sit ski.
This is why I do everything the way I do moving forward with hitting cliffs. And I don't do it stupidly. I look at it, I imagine it. I've closed my eyes. I pick my line. And, all these things that have happened to me recently, or not recently, but, the past 2 years, monoskiing, breaking my leg, falling in this ravine or crevasse, I like to call it. But, just all these things, that's why I do the things I do. But anyways, I was on my slalom ski. I jumped this cat track. I ended up landing, compressed a little bit. And I was like, oh, shit, like I know exactly where I am. I tried turning, and then I high-sided because it was such soft snow. And then basically took out one of the B nettings, and I started tumbling down like probably 40 feet, 50 feet, hit my back, like my ski pops off, and I literally like check myself. I'm like, all right, I'm good. I get up and I look up, and I'm in the like little hole, like where the river is, for like 5 minutes. And basically a ski patroller comes around, and he like is like, why is this dude in here? I'm just sitting there. I'm like, smile on my face, and I just wave, just a couple times. And then he comes around, he throws this little pink rope down, and I look at it. It looks like yarn. I'm like, yeah, okay, bud. Like, that's going to do a lot. I was just chilling. It was fine, but it was cold in there because I was soaked. This dude, Ben something, came down, rappelled down, And he's like, "Hey, do you know Roy and Steve?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I was actually trying to go grab a drink with them. I just talked to him, probably 20 minutes before this happened." So the first thing he comes down, he's like, "Hey, you all right, man? You all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I just can't feel my legs." And he's like, "Wait, really?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm already paralyzed." And I was just like, he started laughing, and so anyways, it took like 12 to 15 patrollers to get me out of there, and got out. And wow, safety first. That's why you always have to be careful on new mountains.
That is the truth. So that's a crazy experience. And with inappropriate questions, I bring in someone that you know to ask 3 inappropriate questions. And the High Fives Foundation has done a ton for you now. And
Yeah.
based off of the events of the past week and the bright future you have, it's like you lost one part of your life, but then when you found the High Fives Foundation, you created almost more potential with your life now than you had when you were a plumber, if that makes any sense.
Of course.
And the High Fives Foundation is led by an amazing guy named Roy Tuscany, who also had a life-altering injury. And I have Roy Tuscany asking the inappropriate questions. And before I even jump in, thinking about Roy, one thing he mentioned to me with his life-altering injury is before the injury, he was an asshole. He wasn't the kind of person that was a cool guy that you'd want to hang out with. And his whole perspective on life totally changes after the accident. And he's like the nicest, greatest, sweetest human being that I know, or one of them. And I'm sure you as well. Now, when you had your injury, did it fundamentally change you as a person, or have you always been the same Trevor?
I've always been go with the flow. I mean, I probably was in a little shit at some points in my life for sure. But I mean, after getting injured, like it humbled the shit out of me. And yeah, it definitely humbled the shit out of me.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with Roy's first inappropriate question.
What is your favorite food to put inside a jacket, a wetsuit, or whatever you're wearing to participate in a sport?
Pocket bacon.
When you do pocket bacon, do you make 15 pieces of bacon and put it in your pocket?
Or like if you're at a hotel or someone's breakfast, or you have extra bacon and just need to stuff it in your pocket for the ride. You'll get hungry during the day and you're like, shit, you want some pocket bacon? And people get stoked and they're like, yeah, I want pocket bacon. It's sick.
So when you do that, usually you can have all kinds of random stuff end up in your pockets, especially if there's spliffs involved. And on that pocket bacon, have you had just all kinds of gnarly stuff that you just don't even care and you eat it?
Yeah, I mean, I usually carry pocket bacon and pocket gummies.
Now I'll jump into Roy's second inappropriate question.
Question number 2 is, what is your new strategy for staying in big cities?
My new strategy for staying in big cities is to meet joyful people. That's my strategy.
That's not your strategy. You laughed way too hard for the question to just give me to meet joyful people. Now, you don't have to share all of your strategy.
Yeah, I won't. I meet new friends, and you have people that are nice and let you stay at their place for a night or two. Not the High Fives crew, but some other friendly ladies.
So you're saying your strategy is an old strategy they call living like a sailor.
Living like a sailor, exactly.
Okay. So Roy's third and final inappropriate question.
How many suits do you own?
I only own one suit, and it's a penguin suit, and Roy bought it for me. We went down for, I think, last year to Adaptive Training Foundation where they had awards, and I showed up in like sweatpants and like shoes that like were all ripped and like didn't work or whatever. Like it was just so funny. And he ended up taking me to, I forget what store it was, but bought me a suit and then bought me Nike shoes. And oh, you gotta love him for that. Are you kidding me?
Well, he helped make a career for you, and he's going to dress you for that career in a penguin suit.
Exactly.
I want to thank you for your time. And I know it's been a whirlwind of a week, and you've got a lot of things planned. And I'll see you again in Squaw Valley in a few weeks. And the most approachable and chill dude before he was famous, and he became famous this week by sending Corbets. I mean, the people that knew him knew he was doing crazy stuff, but now the world knows it, and even more of the world's going to know it with all the press that this is going to continue to generate. Trevor, I want to thank you for your time.
I'm beyond honored to be featured on the Powell Movement with all these other athletes. So, Mike, thank you for having me on, and Powell Movement, go watch it.
All right, man. Yeah, it's one of the best watches on the internet. Thank you.
So that was time with Trevor Kennison, and man, it's cool to see that guy's life come together again, especially after it all fell apart. I mean, if I were to get paralyzed and I didn't have a wife and kid, I don't know what I would do. Maybe try some heavy drugs, maybe feel sorry for myself. I don't know. And that's most likely because I'm weak. Trevor Kennison is not weak. He's a dude who had to deal with one of the worst blows that can be dealt in life. And I know there's a lot worse than being paralyzed. But for podcast purposes, this is a heavy thing to go through. And instead of being weak like me, Trevor stayed positive. And that's tough to do when you're learning how to live again, battling depression, and feeling like you're on an island. But with what I've seen with injuries over my time, positivity always wins. And Trevor is now in a place where life can really restart for him. I anticipate that we'll be seeing a ton more of Trevor on his sit ski. I also think he'll have a budget to get things done in the future, and the combination of a budget and no fear create unlimited potential for Trevor Kennison, and it should create some amazing clips for the ski and snowboard community to view. That's the show for this week. At this point, I want to thank you for listening, ask you to review me on whatever platform you listen to me on. Please do this. It really helps the show grow. And finally, I want to thank my sponsors. They're Evo, Rescue Water, Spy Optic, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Have a great week, everyone.